It's the Law.
Welcome to It's the Law, a program produced and presented by the Guyana Association of Women Lawyers. On this program, a member of the association gives us an in-depth look at Guyana's laws. Today's contributor is Shellon Boyce.
Today, I will speak to you very briefly on drug offences. Drug offences in Guyana are subjected and come under the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act. Drug offences are very serious offences, and the use of drugs must be taken into serious consideration. The Act lays out the narcotics, drugs, and substances that are prohibited by law, and for which persons, if found guilty of an offense under the Act, can be placed in prison. Today, I'm going to speak to you about drug offenses and as it relates to juveniles. You may ask yourself, who is a juvenile? So a juvenile is any person who is under the age of 18 years old, but that person is older than 14. So we cater for that bracket between 14 to 17 years old, because at 18 years old, you're an adult. The use and misuse of drugs is one that all children are warned against and are warned of, whether it's recreational drugs or otherwise. Important to note is that whether you can be liable and you can be charged for an offense under the Act, even if the drug, the illegal drug that is not found on your person, which means it may not be in your hand, it may not be in your pockets, it may not be on you, on your body. You can still be charged under the Act. You may be in a vehicle, you may be in a room, in a space where the illegal drug is found, and as a result of that, you can be arrested and charged and placed before the courts. Once charged, the matters are heard by a magistrate sitting in a magistrate's court. As recent as Bill number 2 of 2021, there was amendments to the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Control Act. This important piece of legislation in our society is one that is geared towards preventing the misuse of illegal drugs that are prohibited. And of course, when I say the word drugs, I'm also referring to marijuana, cocaine. Drugs also in some plants as well are prohibited and are categorized and come under this act as a controlled substance. And so it is important for us to note that no matter the amount, though you may not, if found guilty, be in prison, there will be some sort of sanction given to you once you are found guilty and of offense. And certainly it has to be a very small quantity if found guilty for anyone to be able to get community service. In terms of a sentence, it is important to note that in addition to a term of imprisonment, one can also be fined. All juveniles, and I should say all children, not because you are 14 years old or not because you may be 16 years old, you may think that you will not be held accountable for your actions. And so it is important to note that though you may be a juvenile, you must be aware that you can and would be held accountable for any offense committed under this act. So I encourage you to be responsible. I encourage you to stay away from illegal drugs, to stay away from participating in any use of any recreational drugs, whether it be one that is ingested whether it's one that is smoked or otherwise. Juveniles, children, you must also be aware that within our society today, drugs can be so hidden and so kept away from the natural eye that when one looks at it or when one may taste it or smell it, one may say, well, this can't be something that is bad. This cannot be a drug. But certainly there are drugs, there are substances that may not, to your natural eye and to what you're accustomed to seeing, it may not necessarily look like marijuana or otherwise, but it may be a pill, a tablet, and so you warn and I caution you to be very careful with your activities, be careful with how you conduct yourself and the things that you participate in, and to note that even at your age you can be held accountable. This topic is one that is very, very, very important and will continue to change with time. The drugs, the substances that are laid out under the Act, the list of substances that are laid out in the Act is one that will forever grow. The number of offences will always widen because of the nature of the subject. And with technology, there are ways to enhance, there are ways to conceal illegal narcotic, illegal drugs. And so it is very important that you read this act, that you be informed of the offenses, be informed of the do's and don'ts in relation to narcotics and drugs use and misuse. The act that I was mentioned earlier, the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Control Amendment Act, the act can be found on the website of the Ministry of Legal Affairs. It also can be found on the website of Parliament, Guyana Parliament, the website. The act is there, and on both of these websites, access to the act is free. Access to any piece of legislation under the Ministry of Legal Affairs and Parliament Office is all free. Downloading it is at no cost to you, and it's widely accessible on the internet as well. So I encourage you to read the act, to share the information that I've shared with you today, to encourage others, especially juveniles, as part of their enhancement, as part of their pursuit of knowledge, to read this important act. It will certainly help them and their peers, and it will certainly be able to guide their conduct and assist them in their day-to-day life.
Ms. Boyce now continues on the topic traffic offences.
Today, I will share briefly with you on the topic of traffic offences. Firstly, I would like to encourage you, both pedestrians and drivers, to be cautious when you're using the road, to be very careful when you're using the road. In Guyana, in relation to traffic offences, the law that governs traffic offences is the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Act. As road users, we must all be able to not only use the road for the purpose of which we want it, but to take into consideration the other road users, to comply with the laws, to comply with the rules and regulations. Traffic offenses are simple, and in some instances, traffic offenses, though simple, the penalty for which you are made to bear if found guilty in a court of law, certainly it's not simple. Why I say traffic offenses is simple? Because one has no reason not to adhere, and to ensure that they don't end on the side of the law for which they will have a penalty being enforced. As road users, you are encouraged to ensure, as drivers, ensure that your vehicle is registered, that your motor vehicle registration is not expired, that your fitness is not expired, that your vehicle is in a state that is fit for usage for the purpose for which it is registered. You are most certainly encouraged, and you must ensure that the vehicle is insured. The vehicle that you are driving is insured. Breach of insurance is an offense punishable by law under this act. So certainly insurance is an important asset under this law, and it's important for you as well in the event that you are involved in an accident. Traffic offenses are very serious offenses, and they may range and from, as I would have said, breach of insurance, breach of fitness, and you can go all the way to the extreme of causing death by dangerous driving. You can also be charged for reckless driving. So you are encouraged to use the road properly. You're encouraged to take precaution to be safe when you use the road and to take into account other road users. The issue of electric cycles is one that is very topical in our communities. The use of electric cycles is widespread throughout Guyana, and with the new law in relation to the use of electric cycles, everyone is encouraged, those who use electric cycles, those who intend for whatever future purpose to use electric cycles, you are encouraged to comply with the new laws in this regard and to ensure that your electric cycles are registered. And like other cycles and vehicles in general, to ensure that they are fit for usage on the roads. The law in relation to traffic offences, as I would have mentioned, the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Act, it can be found, the law can be found on the Ministry of Legal Affairs website. It can also be found on the Guyana Parliament Office website. The most recent bill in relation to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act was Bill number 7 of 2023, and that bill deals with electric cycles. And so you're encouraged as well to ensure you apprise yourself with this bill and apprise yourself for those who own or intend to own or who use electric cycles, to ensure that you read, because the law is very new, that you read what is required of you under the law in this regard. Please remember that for traffic offenses, if you're involved in an accident, you must report the accident. You're encouraged to report the accident immediately. When it occurs, report the accident. If for whatever reason you're not in a position to report the accident, you can have someone on your behalf report the accident. Or you are also encouraged to contact the nearest police station or police outpost in this regard. And certainly, if you are the witness to any accident and you have information, you are encouraged in confidence to bring that information to law enforcement. And the information that you share will be dealt in confidence. When we think of traffic offenses, I would like you also to know that there are numerous cases where persons could have avoided penalties, that is, being charged with offenses under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Amendment Act if they had adhered the rules and regulations and road safety. But as a result of the failure of those persons to adhere to the rules and regulations, they have now been placed before the courts. Matters in relation to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Amendment Act, these matters are heard in the magistrate's court, and in some instances you can be fined, but in other instances there are those offenses, if found guilty, you can be sentenced to serve a term of imprisonment. So all road users are encouraged to adhere to the rules and regulations and Pedestrians are also encouraged to use the road in a manner that will benefit their own safety and to take into account that there are other persons, more so vehicles, persons who drive vehicles, ride vehicles, who are on the road at the same time that they may be walking on the road, walking on the pave, crossing the road, to pay attention to their surroundings, to pay attention to what is happening when they as well are using the road, so as to help themselves and ensure their own safety in that regard. This brings me to the end of my brief talk with you on traffic offences. As I said, I encourage you to use the road knowing that there is someone else who is on the road with you, and to be cautious and remember the rules and the regulations, and to remember your 5 C's when using the road. Thank you.
You have been listening to It's the Law, a program produced and presented by the Guyana Association of Women's Lawyers. The contents of this program are not to be taken instead of legal advice.